Hello and welcome to round number 15 of the Apex Online Racing rFactor 2 Formula 1 World Championship. We're here for the Japanese Grand Prix here at the Suzuka International Circuit. My name is Zach Jones and alongside me is Curtis Kenyon. And Curtis, we're here in Q1. Bit of a different format than what we've had so far this season, where the amount of penalties versus the amount of people racing means that only one person will be eliminated at the end of Q1 here. It's a very interesting situation to be in.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd one for sure. It's just the penalties racked up after Singapore. A lot of, I'll be honest with you, Singapore is kind of a tough track to come in and out of the pits on, and there was a lot of penalties there, some track infringements, things like that. I think there was a couple of collision penalties as well, but yeah, it's just a really weird kind of setup. Plus, we have a couple of very, very fast guys that might actually eliminate people from the race itself because of the 105% rule. This one might actually have the most interesting qualifying yet.
Yeah, we've also got 12 minutes in this session. At the end of the 12 minutes, the slowest driver out of the people who can complete laps will be eliminated and their grid position will be set. And then we move to Q2, where the top 10 will be battling it out for pole position. Some drivers start from the back of the grid, some drivers start from the pit lane, as well as Tino Nälkäräinen with a 5-place grid penalty. So whether he qualifies, if he does get through to Q2, if he does get through and whatever position he qualifies there, he'll have to drop 5 spots for the race itself. But he'll be still further ahead than some of his rivals, the likes of Sam Carpenter, Philip Kraus, who are all starting at the back of the grid. Will be looking to move forward, and some drivers sometimes have their best races from the back of the grid. The Sabres are notorious from starting at the back of the grid and finding their way very, very high up the grid come the end of the race. But Adam Cronin sets the fastest lap so far we've seen with a 1 minute 30.8. That's immediately eclipsed by Nick Bracchi by almost a second. Jukka Pekalalu slots himself into third place. Dana Brantham launches himself with a 1 minute 29.764. That is fastest time so far by just over a tenth of a second of a Nick Bracchi. So the driver currently racing as a reserve is faster than the Zesty racing car. As the first flying laps are completed, the top 4 at the moment, with I believe Farios, Sontag, Lister, O'Hanlon, Breen and Nälkäräinen yet to set a time. Dionysius Farios puts a time in, puts himself into 5th place with a 1 minute 31.856. Have a look who is looking to improve. Marco Breen sitting at 15th at the moment, making their way through the final sector in the drillers, and it's going to be 6th place at 1 minute 43.8. That's quite a way off what he needs to be able to get through to Q2 and race itself, because at the moment not within 104%, and set sail goes out wide there through turn number 1, tries to get back a second, spins the car around into the wall. So back to the pits to rethink that. But let's have a look at some other drivers that may be improving. Daniel Sontag sitting in 11th. He's currently making his way towards the spoon curve. Turns number 13 and 14 on this Suzuka circuit. Got to be careful not to run out there onto the exit curves, because you'll go flying over into the gravel. Onto the back straight now, activating DRS, building up to well over 310 kilometers an hour into 130R. Flying there flat to the floor in a modern Formula 1 car. Braking for the Casio triangle. Just up to 100 meter mark. Got to get through the chicane, now through the final corner. Going to run towards the line. What's it going to be? For Sontag, it's going to be 4th place with 1 minute 30.295, so a decent time. Let's have a look at Max Lister, currently in the reserve car, Force India wheel equipped, making his way now towards the spoon curve. We can see Tino Nälkäräinen's gone purple in the first sector, but we'll keep our eyes on Max Lister for the time being, as he's further ahead on the circuit than Nälkäräinen. Lister now along the back straight, building up speed, over 310, running with less wings than what we saw from Breen. Braking heavily now for the Casio triangle. Now through the final corner, Nälkäräinen goes purple with the fastest time, 1 minute 28.789. What's it going to be for Lister? It's going to be 6th with a 1 minute 30.593. So fairly close there in the midfield. We've got O'Hanlon and Wesley Morris, the only 2 drivers yet to complete a time. And we can see that O'Hanlon is currently on a lap, making his way through the Casio triangle now. Past the Ferris wheel, active and DRS, running towards the line. It's going to be 5th place for O'Hanlon. That's a good time there from the German driver. But what's Wesley Morris going to do? Wesley in the Wolf Racing car making their way into the Degners now, through number 1, now into Degner number 2. Clock is starting to tick down, 5 minutes left in this first qualifying session.
Weird line.
Got to be very careful not to spin up the rears there on the exit of the hairpin. Such a notorious corner to spin the rears up and to spin the car around. Now onto the back straight, building up speed. Obviously 130R is flat out in a modern Formula 1 class, so it's not too much of a corner, more of just a straight. Now into the Casio triangle, braking heavily just after the 100-metre mark. Nails the apex on the inside, but runs a little bit wide, bit eager on throttle. Through the final corner, got to be careful not to run out onto the grass. Runs towards the line, what's it going to be? It's going to be 9th with 1 minute 31.166, so at the moment Marco Breen's the sole driver that will be eliminated from this qualifying session if he does not improve. But what we're seeing is Wesley Morris is actually going for another lap, so if they aren't using qualifying boost, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. We'll have a look at potentially some other drivers improving. Marco Breen is one of those. The man sitting in 11th place now is making their way down towards 130R now. Yep, and onto the curb and round he goes.
Yep, hit that very slippery AstroTurf, and honestly this track itself is kind of slippery without any rubber on it, and very technical, so you know it's easy to lock up the wheels, just get sideways, and then of course when you're under power like that, it's a bit of a scary moment there for Marco Breen, but man, he has got to find some pace. That's a very, very slow time.
Yeah, 15 seconds off the pace at the moment. Will be most unlikely that he will race. But we'll give him time to improve, we shall see.
He should be able to get out here in time.
Sontag makes his way up to 6th place, ahead of O'Hanlon. Still leaving Marco Breen, the man under pressure at the moment, in the drop zone here in Q1.
He does not have the car set up the way he needs it to be, honestly.
It seems to be
very, very
trial by fire for Marco Breen.
So the S's are such a tricky set of corners. You have to have the car set up just right, and the balance of the aero and the way that you have the rear end set up becomes very important, and how you modulate the throttle. Yeah, like that right there. Marco,
and they get some brake markers. Now, unfortunately, those set of tyres will be destroyed because of the sliding. I don't know how Marco's going to be able to improve if he does go for a lap here. He doesn't have... He would have time to go back to the pits and try again, but maybe he just wants to see what could happen.
I don't think he'd have enough time.
He'd be fairly close. He'd have to be leaving the pit lane now.
He's going to try.
Going to go for it on his outlap here through Spoon Curve. Onto the back straight. Got to get that tyre temperatures up to scratch to make sure that they are going to be fine come the start of his qualifying lap.
Don't beach it. Nice. Oh, yeah, he's got the rear brake set up a little bit too much.
Rear locking is seems to be the issue here for Marco Breen, but starting...
He's going for it.
So his final qualifying lap of the session. Onto the main straight now, building up speed over 310 kilometers an hour into turn number 1 and into turn number 2, which are almost like one corner. Big commitment there from Breen. Got to be careful on exit. He keeps the car.
That was beautiful.
Into the S's now. Probably the most technically challenging parts of the circuit. As you muck up one, it'll have a reoccurring knock-on effect throughout the rest of the lap. Through the Dunlop curve. heading now towards the 2 Degner corners. Runs over the curb on the inside, nicely done. Runs a bit wide there on exit, and spins around and into the wall.
Just
and
a
he's
little
out
bit
of this
too
session.
much.
It'll be Marco Breen that'll be eliminated here in qualifying number 1. But looking towards the top, Snell Koronen clear by 5/10. It doesn't really matter at the moment because we're just worried about the sole driver that will be eliminated. And he's going to be Marco Breen. The action will now move towards. The action will now move towards qualifying number 2. The checker flag now comes out. Adam Cronin in the drillers, making his way through Spoon Curve now onto the back straight. Building up speed. Doesn't have DRS because of the fact that the Formula 1 cars do not brake for 130R, so cannot deactivate the DRS. Through 130R into the Cassier Triangle now. Misses the apex there in the first part. Nails it in the second part. Now through the final corner. Running towards the line. What's it going to be for Adam Cronin? It's an improvement, but it's not to improve his position. Daniel Sontag runs towards the line, and it is going to be an improvement. He puts himself up to 4th place. Wesley Morris, we'll have a look what Wesley's doing through Spoon Curve now. Hasn't been a mightily impressive first sector. 3:10, 3 seconds off the pace through the first sector alone. Through 130R. Another couple of seconds lost in the middle sector for Wesley Morris. Through the Cassier Triangle, now through the final corner and decides to come to the pit lane. Wesley knows that they're through to qualifying number 2. He's pulling into the box and will be getting going for the final session. The penultimate qualifying 2 session of the season for this Japanese Grand Prix. 37 laps ahead of the drivers. This infamous Suzuka circuit, so famous and synonymous with Formula 1 racing.
So, yeah, looks like Marco Breen is going to be completely out of this race. He did not make the 105% rule. Gave it a good go, man. He was all over the track a little bit. Didn't quite have the car set up, but man, he was trying. Can't fault him for that.
It was commitment. Unfortunately, it wasn't up to scratch, though. We've got to make sure that the drivers who are racing are safe and there's no risk of being taken out by slower drivers that aren't able to keep up with the pace. But who knows? Marco may come back stronger at the final race at Interlagos next week. But the attention now turns to qualifying number 2, the final qualifying session for this Grand Prix weekend, and the chance to see who will form up for the top 10 on the grid. Obviously, Nel Karan's got a 5-place grid penalty over his head. He can qualify on pole. He can win qualifying, but he will not be able to start on pole position for this Japanese Grand Prix. The best he can hope for is 6th place if he does qualify fastest in qualifying, but we shall see. As they're making their way onto the circuit, 7-minute session. But we'll be running through the championship standings in warm-up as well to have a look at some of the others.
Speaking of the championship, I don't think there's going to be too much of a shakeup. We'll have a closer look at that, both drivers and constructors, during the warm-up, so obviously stay tuned for that. Right now, though, Q2 underway. The top 10 positions, which only 11 cars qualified, so yeah, they're going to be duking it out here to figure out who starts where. I wonder if Dano will give Tino a run for his money.
We'll see. Obviously, Tino is on a set of soft tyres because he knows that he has to start the race because he's into Q2 now. He has to start the race on the tyres he sees best lap on in Q2. So You're playing clever here with the strategy because we've got the super soft, soft, and medium tyres available this weekend for the drivers as Nel Gronin makes his way through the final corner and onto the main straight, activating DRS for what will be his first lap, flying lap here in qualifying number 2, into turn 1 and into turn 2. Essentially one corner due to their flowing nature. On exit, doesn't run over the curb. Now into the SS section. Technical part of the circuit that if you mess up one part, it will mess up the entirety of your lap. Seems to be okay from Nelcorone so far. Now into the Dunlop curb. Got to be very careful not to run out wide and spin on into the gravel. Now into Degner's number 1. Nails the inside apex. Now into Degner number 2. Misses the apex and backs out of it. He knew that he missed some time, but Nick Brackey has gone purple in the first sector. Is Brackey now into the hairpin, turn number 10. Now through 11 and 12. We'll see what Nick Brackey can do through the second sector split, but it's looking so far so good for the Welsh driver. Into Spoon Curve, 13. Now into turn number 14. Onto the back straight, building up speeds of over 310 kilometers an hour. Heading out into 130R, getting committed flat to the floor, braking just after the 100 meter mark now for the first part of the Casio triangle into the chicane. Seemingly all good, a little bit of a wiggle there on exit through the final corner. Brackey's going to run to the line. It's going to be a 1 minute 29.512, the fastest time so far. Went purple through all 3 sectors. The threat, though, to his crown will be down over Branthome. Make his way on the back straight now, down towards 130R. Mac Lister went purple in the final sector, but as he went 3rd. Branthome's gone purple in the middle, as he now makes his way into the Casio triangle. A bit of a lock up there on the front right. Will he be able to keep the car all under control through the final corner now, running towards the line, activating DRS. What's it going to be for Branthome? It's going to be pole position by just under a quarter of a second ahead of Nick Brackey. And there's a bit of a gap to the rest of the field. Jukapi Lalu sits himself in 5th place. As we have a look now at Tino Nelkarainen, as Dionysius Farios puts himself into 5th place. Have a look at Brandon O'Hanlon has bailed out. What about Tino Nelkarainen? Has also bailed out. Wesley Morris puts himself up into 7th place. It is going for another lap, which is ill-advised as the engine will not be able to cope with 2 laps.
I wonder if Wesley doesn't realize that he doesn't have, he doesn't have to go all the way around the track to go back to the pits. He can just escape. We do allow that here at AOR. There are some leagues that do require you to do the 3 laps, out lap, fast lap, and then an in lap.
Oh, Wesley's off into the gravel.
Oop. Yeah, just escape, man. Just escape. Yeah, we might need to message Wesley and let him know that. He can just escape.
10 out of 10 for commitment.
Yeah, oh yeah. I love it. I think it's a great rule to have. Makes it much more realistic. But with how fast we go through qualifying and the sessions, it does make it more handy to just escape out and try again.
Dionysus is currently sitting in 5th place, has gone personal best in the first 2 sectors into the Casio triangle. Nails the first part of the apex. Second part was a bit more questionable. Through the final corner, big slide and into the pit lane. Whoa, that's a heavy impact. And unfortunately, that's going to be the final attempt for Dionysus. I don't think he's going to be able to get out and do another lap. Have a look at Wesley Morris. Yep, very poor middle sector. Adam Cronin is the first of the drivers to complete their final laps, making his way into turn number 11 now. The hairpin corner, could be careful not to spin up the rears on exit. A 33.1 in the first sector is a fairly decent lap there. So we shall see now into the Spoon Curve what Cronin can do. Can he put the car onto the front row or even pole position? Lalu's gone slightly faster in the first sector in comparison to Cronin. The only drivers into the 32s. Through 130R though, Cronin remains committed into the Casio triangle, hits the apex nicely of both elements. Now through the final corner, doesn't spin up the rears and hit the wall. He's instead going to run towards the line, and he's going to put himself second ahead of Nick Bracke. We'll immediately turn our attention to Suzuka Pekalalu, who's gone with a fair... He's gone purple, actually. Purple in the middle sector. This could be it for Suzuka Pekalalu.
A little wide.
On the soft compound tyres as well, so the middle compound available for this weekend. Got to be careful with the lack of grip through the final corner. Runs towards the line, puts himself second, just under 0.2 of a second off Branthome. But what about some other drivers who are starting to threaten? Dano Branthome has gone slightly faster. Nelkarainen, Tino Nelkarainen has gone purple in the first sector, making his way now into the hairpin. The Williams driver will be very careful not to spin up the rears, as we were stressing earlier on in the session. Running now up towards Spoon Curve, turn number 13. As Dano Branthome improves to put himself 3.5 of a second clear of Suzuka Pekalalu. So if Nelkarainen wants to get himself, if he wants to win pole, he's got to get a 1 minute 29.127. But we shall see. Making his way through 130R. At the moment, it is going to be Branthome on pole unless Bracke can improve. But Bracke has only just recently started his lap. We'll have a look at Nelkarainen. Going to run through the final corner. Going to come towards the line. Puts himself on pole position by 0.4 of a second, which will become 6th unless we see what Nick Bracke can do into the final couple of corners. Bit of a lock up there on the left front. Through the final corner now. It's been a fairly decent time, we'll see. He puts himself second. So that is pole position for Nick Bracke by 1,000th of a second.
Oh my goodness.
They actually set the exact same time. Nick Bracke and Dano Branthome have set the exact same time, which means that Dano Branthome will start on pole position, I believe, because he set the time first ahead of Nick Bracke. So Tino Nelkarainen wins qualifying, but will start from 6th place on the grid, as Nick Bracke and Dano Branthome have set the exact same time in the battle for what will be pole position in the race. And I believe Dano Branthome will be on pole ahead of Nick Bracke, but that will remain to be seen. Suzuka Pekalalu will line up in 3rd ahead of Adam Cronin. Brandon O'Hanlon will start from 5th on the grid, and then Tino Nelkarainen will slot in. Daniel Sontag from 7th, Lister from 8th, Farios from 9th, and Wesley Morris starting from 10th place on the grid with the penalty runners, the 6 of them, starting from behind. But we shall see as we move to warm-up. That was a cracking end to a very, very close qualifying session. I can't quite believe that they set the exact same time. That's it's incredible.
To get that close is just wow. I don't think we've seen any of that this season, at least. I'm pretty sure it's happened before. But oh my God, I had my breath held for a little while there. I had to just like willing a driver to just be ahead by a 1,000th of a second if possible, but not quite. Just not quite. Bracke, though, I mean, put it in a heck of a performance there for the Zesty Racing squad, and he's been showing a lot of promise in the last few races, and honestly, this is just proving that he belongs up here in the top ranks of the AOR RF2 leagues. It's been fantastic watching him grow, Zach.
It has. It was a good result in Spa, 4th place after a double overtake on the final lap. But we shall see what he can do. But we'll now turn our attention to the Drivers' Championship, the top 10, heading into the second last race of the season. Craig Baxter leads with 277 points. Obviously, he's the champion and he's not racing today, but has already locked away the championship, so doesn't need to race anymore, just for personal pride. Sam Carpenter sits in 2nd place with 188 points. He's only 6 points ahead of Kieran Chadwick, both drivers starting from the back of the grid. Will be looking to score some good points and potentially either extend their gap or change things around in the championship. Just behind them, it's Philip Kraus sitting 4th with 171 points, 11 points behind Kieran Chadwick, and that is going to be 17 points behind Sam Carpenter. And then in 5th place is Kian White, not racing today. I don't think he's racing at all for the rest of the season. Will be under some threat, I believe, from Tino Nelkarainen, who could potentially get ahead of Kenyon White, if he is to win today's race, starting from 6th place on the grid. Evan Rice, who isn't racing, sits in 7th with 161 points. He'll be under pressure from Scott Davidson, who is racing today with 158 points to his name so far in the season. Is the only Defiance car racing as well, so that'll be very interesting in the Constructors' Championship as well. Tommy Latalo sits in 9th, 3 points ahead of Juka Pekalali, the last time out got a podium at Singapore. We'll be looking to possibly emulate that feat this time around here for the Japanese Grand Prix, but we shall see over the course of the next 37 laps.
My page isn't loading. Darn it.
All good. We'll move on to the Constructors' Championship, which is a little bit closer than the Drivers' Championship. Defiance Racing leading with 335 points. They are 32 points ahead of Sabre Racing, who have got one car each racing today. Just behind them, a fair bit behind them, 60 points is KRT sitting in 3rd. They're sitting pretty, I think, in 3rd, probably locked that away secure because Zesty Racing got 199 points. They're 44 points behind KRT. And they'll have to be doing very well for them to close that gap up. But they're also quite a margin then ahead of ACR Zaxby, who haven't got a car racing. They're no longer taking part in the series, but accumulated so many points earlier on in the season that they sit 5th in the Constructors at the moment with 64 points. But I think that they may be passed today by Royal Blue, who have got Daniel Sontag racing for them. We'll be looking to score some points for the team. Visceral Sim Racing sitting 7th with 48 points. They're just 5 points ahead of Williams Esports, who obviously has got the sole driver of Tina Nelkarainen racing for them, and will most likely be their main threat, I think, at coming towards the end of this championship. Who knows? Nelkarainen may be able to score 5th place for Williams in a couple of races he's taken part, but it'll be very, very close. Speaking of close, Stubert Motorsport and S2 Racing, both German teams, 21 points apiece, 9th and 10th in the Constructors. It's all to play for, with Farios taking part, racing for Stubert, and O'Hanlon racing for S2 as well today. So it'll be a battle between those two. Whoever finishes higher and finishes in the points will be leading the Constructors for their team heading into the final race of the season.
We got Drillers, Vulcan, Wolf. They're in, I believe, they're actually in the race. I'm going to have to take that back. Vulcan, I don't believe, is in the race today.
Vulcanite, yep. Max Shepard is staying from the pit lane.
Mac Shepard is here. Okay, good. Yeah, so there you go. They'll be fighting for 11th at least, potentially moving up to 10th, assuming S2 doesn't have a good day. But pretty much the rest of the Constructors' Championship is locked up, as you had a couple of instances of those teams participating in races, but they are not here today. So, Constructors at the top of the list is looking interesting. Sabre has a chance to, well, they're definitely going to close up today, just for the fact that one car from Defiance isn't participating today, of course. But they could close up and potentially pass Defiance. We're talking about Sabre, of course.
I don't think that's possible today because Keen White isn't racing, so it's one car apiece for Defiance and Sabre.
And Keen isn't racing in Interlagos. You just said that, huh?
Yeah, so
in Brazil, it's possible. It's possible to do races.
It's a tall order for Carpenter to overtake. I don't believe Craig Baxter is racing in Interlagos either, but I think that's a bit up in the air at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see what happens today with Scott Davidson. If he does finish well in the points, you would think that the Constructors are secured for Defiance Racing, but we shall see. The battles behind them definitely ones to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
Zesty Racing, if Zesty Racing to score a 1-2 and KRT don't score any points, will be 1 point behind KRT heading into the final race. So it's all to play for. We just got to hope that a bit of luck goes our way. Saying this as a completely unbiased view of the Constructors' Championship.
He says,
I just love orange.
Starting to make our way through warm up here, and Kraus is starting to come alive. Everybody trying to get used to the fact that full fuel's on board. And we mentioned this track being a little bit slippery. There is a bit of a rubber line wearing in, and that's going to provide some grip as people move their way around the track here. Suzuka is one of those tracks that's mired in history. I mean, there's so much that has happened here. So many series race here. You got the Endurance 8 Hours, World Touring Cars, Super GT, Super Formula, a lot of Japanese series race here. You get a Drift Cars race here, the D1 Grand Prix. Obviously the Japanese Grand Prix, motorcycles, all kinds of neat stuff raced here. MotoGP is raced here. World Superbike is raced here. So many things have happened. Opening in 1962, it's actually a vision of the Honda Motor Corporation, as Soichiro Honda wanted to have a permanent circuit in the Mie prefecture so that he can test his cars. And then it turned into this insane racetrack. And honestly, it's provided some of the best racing I've ever seen from around the world. That includes my favorite track at Fuji.
Yeah, there's certainly going to be a lot of racing, especially with the faster drivers in this league starting at the back for today's race. So who knows what will happen. But we got confirmation. Nick Bracke is starting on pole position ahead of Dano Brantham. So Zesty Racing on pole for the Japanese Grand Prix. It'll be Nick Bracke's first pole in AOR.
We'll have to see how he does. I mean, honestly, at this track, with turn one being fairly precarious, I mean, you go in there off the start, basically full throttle, and then you have to shift down and get on the brakes for the second part of that corner. Turn one, turn two, essentially one corner. But it's very tricky to not spin the car around or lock up the fronts and go into somebody who's outside of you. It's just gotta be very careful here, especially because of the high speeds. It's not like many of the other courses that AOR visits, where you get a nice slow first corner and it's all about the braking point and all that. Just making sure you don't crash into the back of the person in front of you. And with the track being so technical, any mistake gets punished. We saw that in qualifying, a couple people spinning. This could either be a straight up pass fest because of the top drivers at the back, or it could be a mistake-riddled race and that's where the passes happen. We'll have to see here, but we're just about to get underway here shortly.
Yep, the drivers are completing their final practices with the pit lane entry, their pit boxes. Got to make sure that they can negotiate the traffic and get into their pit box and change their tires and get out back into the race. But the checker flags is flying here at the end of warm-up. We'll be about to go to the grid ahead of 37 laps of the Suzuka circuit for the Japanese Grand Prix. And it's just got the feeling it's going to be an epic race with new faces up the front, the old faces at the back. It'll be interesting to see how they can, if they can take the fight to the new people at the front. But we shall see over the course of the next 37 laps.
Yeah, 37 lap race. It's not very long, but the track is pretty long, and so many mistakes can happen. And you just got to keep it smooth. More than anything, anybody who can keep it smooth here at Suzuka will probably finish in the top 5, definitely get a top 10. And I have a feeling both Danov and Nick Bracke will be dueling it out at the front. We'll be having to keep an eye on them for sure.
I definitely feel that is going to happen. It's got all the hallmarks to be a classic race between those two. Welcome to the Japanese Grand Prix here, Apex Online Racing rFactor 2 Formula 1 World Championship, the penultimate round, round number 15 of 16. We're here for 37 laps. The Suzuka circuit, we're waiting for the drivers to get onto the grid before the formation lap. We will be running through the 16 drivers taking part, a couple, I think maybe one starting from the pit lane, but we shall see. The 15 drivers that are going to be taking part in the formation lap. Now start, it's going to be Nick Brackie on pole position for the first time this season. Another pole for Zesty Racing, and it's Nick's best chance to score a podium and a win for his team. Daniel Brantham lines up in second place, formerly drove for Zesty Racing, and is now racing as a reserve, racing for himself, not for a team, but he's instead going to take points off the teams around him. Chuka Pekalalu, podium getter last time out in Singapore, lines up in third. Have another fantastic opportunity to score another podium. Behind him, it's Adam Cronin for Drillers Motorsport, who are in a hectic battle in the midfield in the constructors. They'll be looking to score some points as Adam starts from fourth place. In fifth, it's another driver that's in part of a team that's in a fantastic battle. It's Brandon O'Hanlon racing for S2. He lines up in fifth place.
Tino Nakarainen lining up in sixth place after putting the car on the pole and then taking his 5th-place grid penalty for Williams Racing, or Williams Esports, we should say. Got picked up, has been fast ever since, and I have a feeling he's been taking some notes. The guy learns quick. Daniel Sontag lining up 7th place, a fairly decent performance from him. Of course, only 11 cars qualifying, taking part in qualifying, as there were a ton of penalties, literally. So he'll be trying to take advantage of that. Max Lister, a name we haven't seen too much of, starting in 8th place, trying to figure out a way around this course in a rapid fashion, as well as Dionysus Faros. We've seen him quite a bit, has been a bit of a back runner as of late, and this might be his best chance for a very good finish, looking for the top 5. Wesley Morris, a newcomer to AOR F1 in RF2, has had a couple of issues in qualifying, but he is starting to figure out the track here. He'll be starting 10th.
A note on Wesley Morris. Unfortunately, Wesley fit the wrong radiator ahead of qualifying due to Parc Ferme rules. He's stuck in what is essentially a qualifying radiator. So it'll be interesting to see if Wesley can get to the end of the race before his engine goes boom, but we shall see. 11th, it's Philip Kraus for Zesty Racing, ahead of Sam Carpenter, his championship rival. In 13th place, it's Scott Davidson for Defiance, ahead of Fabricio Belletti, the driver who collided with Scott's teammate Craig Baxter last time out in Singapore. 15th place, it's Kieran Chadwick for KRT, and starting from the pit lane in 16th place, it's Max Shepard. So the drivers are lining up on the grid.
A lot of big names in the back. This start could be absolutely hectic.
It could be very interesting indeed. The drivers now lining up on the grid. We're waiting for the 5 red lights. So the drivers just getting into position.
Very dramatic start.
Very dramatic indeed. Who hasn't lined up on their grid slot? Here we go. They're now building towards the 5 red lights. Lights out and away we go. It's a fairly good start there by Nick Brackie. It looks like he's going to move over to cover Dano Brantham as they head now down into turn number 1. Is Brantham going to try to go around the outside? No, Brackie holds on just about. It's going to be Nick Brackie. He's going to lead now ahead of Dano Brantham. Adam Cronin is up into 3rd place ahead of Tino Nakarainen, who's jumped up to 4th. So great start there from the Finnish driver, who is up into 4th place in this Grand Prix. Brandon O'Hanlon sits in 5th. Chuka Pekalalu's lost 3 places off the start. Philip Kraus from 11th up to 7th now. At the start of this race, Sam Carpenter's lost ground at the start. Wesley Morris has lost 4 places as well. And it is very, very close here at the front. But it's Nick Brackie who leads this Japanese Grand Prix as they head through Degner's 2. And now into the hairpin as it all starts to settle down a little bit. Tino Nakarainen sitting in 4th place is looking threatening. He's going to go down on the inside of Adam Cronin in the Drillers, but the superior grip there from the super soft tyres is allowing Cronin to pull ahead. But here goes Tino Nakarainen sitting in the slipstream of the Drillers Motorsport car. Will he try and go down on the inside into Spoon Curve? No, he was not brave enough to do that, but he's allowed Cronin to go wide. Here comes Nakarainen down on the inside What a move there from the Finnish driver. He now puts himself ahead of Adam Cronin, but it looks like there's going to be a bit of slipstreaming going on between the two. As we could see, they're going to go down on the inside. Will Cronin make the move into 130R? This would be chaos if he could do that. I think he backs out of it. Oh, jeez, my heart. Oh. It would have been a bit crazy if he was to do that, but Nelkaranen's up to third, started sixth, as Nick Bracke leads this Japanese Grand Prix by a little bit of a margin. It's about 2 seconds as we cross the start-finish line to complete lap 1. He's ahead of Dano Brandtholm, who's under threat from Tino Nelkarainen. It looks like it's Adam Cronin sitting in 4th place. In 5th, it's Brandon O'Hanlon. 6th, it's Jukka-Pekka Laulu. 7th is Philip Kraus at the moment, ahead of Daniel Sontag, Mats Lister, and completing the top 10, it's Dionysius Farios, with Sam Carpenter sitting in 12th position he started the race in. Kieran Chadwick is up from 15th to 11th, so a good start from him. Max Shepard currently sitting in 16th after starting from the pit lane.
So Sam Carpenter actually went off of the track coming into the S's. He nearly got in the back of someone, so he elected to just go off the track and slightly cut the corner. He did lose about 4 positions off of a very, very strong start. And that's why he's back there. But you know, he'll make his way through once everything cools off, but he's got a KRT and Kieran Chadwick in front of him.
Yes, the battle at the moment for position is between 2nd and 3rd on the road. It's Dano Brandtholm versus Tino Nelkarainen. They head through Spoon Curve, corner where Nelkarainen went down on the inside on the opening lap, just 1 lap ago. He's in the slipstream though of Dano Brandtholm. The Swedish driver will be starting to feel the Finnish driver coming up behind him. I don't think Nelkarainen will be brave enough to make a move in 130R, but into the Casio Triangle, a move could be on the cards. Oh, big slide there from Nelkarainen. He's going to go down on the inside, though, into the Casio Triangle. Brandtholm gives him room, and that is a move up into 2nd place for Tino Nelkarainen, a man on a mission here in the opening stages of this Japanese Grand Prix. Next up, it's the race leader, Nick Bracke.
Nick is way out there, though. Just over 2 seconds ahead of this group here. Now, Tino would be smart to kind of lay off just a little bit. Obviously, manage the gap as much as he can because he's got the speed to catch Nick. It's just a matter of Nick. Man, it's hard to say because we haven't really seen Nick too much in the lead. If he can hold something like this together with such fast guys behind him. But, you know, Tino's going to probably reel him in and just keep it calm, cool, and collected, much like the Finnish driver can do, assuming he doesn't get tilted.
Yeah, looking at fast drivers, Sam Carpenter currently putting the blowtorch on Kieran Chadwick, who's also starting to put pressure on Daniel Sontag in 9th place. So the KRT starting to hunt down Daniel Sontag, and Sontag goes wide through the hairpin. Could this allow Kieran Chadwick to potentially make a move? It's a good exit, though. I can tell you that for certain. Super soft tyres against the softs. The grip just isn't there for Chadwick at the moment. There's a yellow flag in Sector 2. Someone is losing position. Nick Bracke's out of the lead of the race. Nick Bracke is down now, sitting in 6th place. So Nick Bracke's had something go wrong through the Spoon Curve. He's lost the lead, and he lets his teammate go through 130R. So Nick Bracke bottled out of the lead of the race. He spun round through 130R, through Spoon Curve, my apologies, and has lost the lead. Tino Nelkarainen leads his Japanese Grand Prix ahead of Dano Brandtholm and Adam Cronin, sitting in 3rd place at the moment. So chaos aplenty. Lost about 5 seconds in the middle sector, did Nick Bracke, and has lost the lead of this Grand Prix.
And that's what I was trying to say, you know, Nick. Oh, we saw another car on the outside there. Looks like it was Brandon O'Hanlon on the outside of turn 1 and 2. But Nick Bracke, honestly, you know, he had to keep calm throughout the first couple of laps, and before he could really set a pace, started to just kind of wane a little bit, got a little bit outside, it looked like, through the spoon corners, and it just lost him.
It did indeed. Max Lister sitting in 8th place at the moment, the closest driver to anyone on circuit. We say that. Philip Kraus has just closed up massively on Jukka-Pekka Laulu, 4th and 5th on the road. Battle between these two. Carpenter into the pit lane.
He took on mediums too.
Running long is Sam Carpenter in this Japanese Grand Prix. A very, very bold strategy indeed. See if we can go on board with Philip Kraus, the man sitting in 5th place at the moment. Currently hunting down 4th place man Jukka-Pekka Laulu in the slipstream down the back straight, heading towards 130R. Will he be close enough to make a move into the Casio Triangle? Got to be careful not to lose the car through the dirty air. Lalu's going all over the circuit. You can sense that Kraus is eager to get past. Got to be careful not to get too frustrated and spin up the rears. A bit more DRS and a bit more slipstream to help Kraus. Will he be able to make a move? He's going to go down on the inside into turn number 1. The move is made before they even brake. And that's a fairly straightforward manoeuvre there for Philip Kraus, up into 4th place in this Grand Prix. Next up, it's Adam Cronin for the American driver.
I mean, Kraus, honestly, it was a straight-up maneuver into turn 1 that is fairly safe to late brake there. There's some degree of banking, especially on the inside of those 2 corners. But you do have to be careful on the exit of turn 1. You don't want to run wide right there. It's very easy to do if you're going in just a little bit too fast, especially if you're not used to that. But it looks like Kraus has some really good pace, and he'll be challenging for 3rd here quickly.
Certainly. Just be interesting to see if he'll make a move into Spoon Curve. Obviously, Cronin lost the position and Elkarainen on the opening lap here through Spoon Curve with a mistake. So let's see if Kraus can force the issue like Elkarainen did. Looks like Cronin goes a little bit wide through the second half of Spoon Curve, and it has allowed Philip Kraus to close up massively. He's right on the tail of the driller's car now. Number 6 goes to the outside for 130R. Kraus knows to back out of it. He knew that there was no chance that he was going to get down the inside into 130R, but what into the Casio triangle? Not this time round. So it looks like there might be a fairly similar manoeuvre than what we saw 1 lap ago against Jukka-Pekka Laulu, as Tino Elkarainen sets the fastest lap of the race. Here comes Philip Kraus, DRS down on the inside, a picture-perfect manoeuvre, photocopy of the previous lap, and he's now up onto the podium, sits in 3rd place with his old teammate, Dano Branthome, next up on the road.
Kraus is looking really racy right now. He's got the soft tires on. Yeah, just regular softs on right now, so his tires should be good for quite a while. And he's not really pushing too hard either. He's taking the opportunities when they're given to him, and when he doesn't have a whole lot of room to race, he's backing off, trying to save the tires, save some fuel at the same time, and just not forcing the issue. But it looks like Cronin is under pressure from Jukka-Pekka Laulu right now, and Cronin just doesn't seem to quite have the car dialed in.
Yeah, Jukka-Pekka looking like he's going to start to potentially make a move into Spoon if he's brave enough.
That was close.
He lifts out the throttle. He knew that there was no chance that was going to happen, but maybe a mistake from Cronin could allow him to get through. A wider line through Spoon allows Jukka-Pekka to close up with Slipstream. He's going to be feeling the effect of it. Will he go for a move into 130R? Is he bold? Is he brave? No, he's not. Not this time round.
He's brave.
But what about into the Casio triangle? What about a late braking maneuver? No, not this time round, but he's looking for some DRS. A big squirm on the throttle there from Cronin allows Lalu to close up even more, as he's now going to pull to the inside. And it's going to be the same move that Kraus pulled on him a lap ago, and that's now Lalu up into 4th place in this Japanese Grand Prix.
We had another pass here. Kieran Chadwick just got around Nick Bracke, so Chadwick making his way up the field, 7th place. Not bad for basically a back-of-grid start.
It's looking good so far. Sam Carpenter currently still sitting in 16th place at the back of the grid, and quite a ways behind, but Wesley Morris is now coming into the pit lane without front wing, so something has happened to Wesley Morris, and that'll allow Carpenter to get past. Carpenter on a set of medium compound tyres, the only driver in the field on them, but we now see that he'll be joined by Wesley Morris on those medium compound tyres as Sam Carpenter moves up to 15th place in this Grand Prix. Quite a ways to go for him if he wants to try and get some points in this race.
Here's an interesting one. Sam Carpenter has gone purple in the 3rd sector.
That's very interesting, actually, considering he's 30 seconds off the next car. But looking at the action, Scott Davison's very, very close indeed to Brandon O'Hanlon, and he's getting very close indeed. Almost the fact that O'Hanlon almost ran into him. They're going to go side by side now into 130R. Something very interesting happened there to Brandon O'Hanlon, because he basically just put the brakes on almost on Scott Davison. He was closing in a slipstream. There was no way that that was natural, as Nick Bracke comes into the pit lane. So we've got a battle happening between Max Lister, 6th place. He's got Adam Cronin all over the circuit in front of him. And could Lister go down up on the inside through 2? No. Into the S's though. You wouldn't expect a maneuver through here unless something goes seriously wrong for Adam Cronin. But as long as you can keep close, you can set yourself up for later in the lap. Cronin keeping the car under control for the moment. He'll be screaming in agony, wanting to get into the pit lane. Kieran Chadwick, meanwhile, is closing up on Max Lister as Lister struggles to get past Cronin. Speaking of Cronin, he goes wide. He's off the circuit. Lister goes up on the inside, but what about Chadwick? He's unfortunately not able to capitalise on Cronin's mistake and is stuck behind him, sitting in 7th place at the moment. But those tyres are starting to struggle for Cronin. Will Chadwick be able to make a move before Lister is able to get away? Will he go for the move down the inside into Spoon? No, he's not going to be brave enough to do that. But a wide line from Cronin allows Chadwick to close up. Philip Kraus trying to put pressure on Dano Branthone, but we can see there's a yellow flag there, and that was Wesley Morris. Wesley Morris is out of this Japanese Grand Prix. Kieran Chadwick's going to try and go around the outside into 130R. What a move there from Kieran Chadwick. Around the outside into 130R. That is a fantastic manoeuvre and puts himself up into 6th place in this Grand Prix. Next up, it's 5th place man, Max Lister, for him to pass. Fabricio Belletti starting to put pressure on O'Hanlon. O'Hanlon's now into the pit lane, my apologies, as well as Adam Cronin. So they're coming into the pit lane.
Cronin must have just been losing grip like crazy. Going through 130R, he didn't have the grip. He had to brake. That's what caused the outside pass there by Chadwick. Now Chadwick, up to 6th. He started very deep in the field.
15th.
Yeah, 15th. I mean, it's second to last. So Max Lister now in his sights, but Lister is running pretty good, all things considered. He's getting a little squirrely, didn't quite have the line, but he's getting there. And I think Chadwick might have a little bit of a time trying to get by him, although Lister is on the super softs. And Chadwick, I believe, I'm going to double check that. Yeah, Chadwick is on the softs. So Chadwick will have the fresher tires. Lister's going to have to come into the pits here probably this lap.
You would think so. Chadwick is closing up on Lister, though. It could be a move before Lister has the opportunity to pit. At the moment, the gap is 3.3 seconds between Nelkarainen and Kraus, the 2 leaders of this Grand Prix. We go through 130R. Kieran Chadwick is closing up on Max Lister. You'd imagine Lister will come into the pit lane at the end of this lap. No, he continues on. Max Lister continues on for another lap. Right. And I think he's going to be very, very vulnerable here to a move from Kieran Chadwick. Chadwick with DRS and with slipstream into turn number 1. Down on the inside. It's a fairly straightforward maneuver. And that's Kieran Chadwick now up into 5th place in this Japanese Grand Prix.
And Lister did the right thing, too. He realized that Chadwick coming up behind him very quickly, backed off, and actually gave Chadwick enough room to make the exit of turn 1, which is very gracious of him. He didn't need to do that. Could have raced him hard, but kudos to Max Lister for knowing that he didn't quite have the corner and allowed Chadwick to safely exit. And honestly, we don't see that a whole lot in sim racing. So, Max Lister, please stay around a little more longer.
It's looking good. Fabricio Belletti is starting to put pressure on Scott Davison, the man sitting in 7th place at the moment in his Grand Prix. Max Shepard as well is closing up on Fabricio Belletti. Mac, who started from the pit lane, up to 9th so far, but is yet to pit. Cronin and Bracky and Farias also in a battle as Scott Davison goes massively wide through Spoon Curve and allows Belletti to go past. Max Shepard will be very close indeed. He's going to try and go around the outside. Will it be a move around the outside into 130R? They're fairly close. They're neck and neck as they go towards 130R. Davidson backs out of the move though, and that allows Max Shepard through up into 8th place for the move through 130R, and that is 8th place in this Grand Prix. Eight positions gained so far in this race for Max Shepard. As you'd imagine, Scott Davison will be coming to the pit lane. No, he continues on those soft compound tyres. Nick Bracky closing up on Adam Cronin. Nick on a set of medium tyres as the round goes Adam Cronin on the exit of the second part of the Casio Triangle. Nick Brackie now up into the points, up into 10th. Pole setter struggling in the early stages of this Grand Prix. Adam Crone, though, hasn't lost too much time after that spin. Still can see Nick Brackie. It'll just be a matter of closing this gap up now over the course of the next couple of laps.
And Brackie's on mediums. Strategy call here for Nick Brackie, the pole sitter, as he's definitely not going to have the speed here through this part of the race, but he's going to have some pretty long-lasting tires. I believe he's the last person to go on mediums. Strategy call indeed. Very interesting. You know, Zach, you are the team owner. Did you have a bit of a say in that?
No, I did not.
Wow.
No, I'll leave that to the drivers. O'Hanlon, though, down on the inside of Dionysius Farios into the hairpin. What a maneuver.
Bold.
That is very, very bold.
Zach, one of these times I'm going to call you Cotton.
Is that right?
Yeah. You know, good dodgeball reference. ESPN 8, the Ocho.
I was just having a look. Dano Brentham is into the pit lane, as well as I believe Max Lister as well. So the two drivers who were higher up on the field are now into the pit lane for their first stop of the race, as the gap is sitting at 2.2 seconds, between Nelkeroinen and Kraus.
I'm kind of keeping an eye on Lister right now as he just came out of the pits. I'm trying to see how the car's going to handle with the soft tires on now.
Scott Davison, my apologies. Scott Davison has spun round on the exit of turn number 9 and has lost his front wing.
Oh.
It's not the first time we've seen him spin round, lose his front wing on a lap. We obviously saw that happen in Singapore in the early stages as Dan O'Brentham goes sweeping round his outside through the hairpin. But it's just another manoeuvre that Scott Davidson has made that is unfortunately going to cost him big time. He's now going to make his way through the third sector of this racetrack and back into the pit lane. He lets Nick Brackie go by, making sure he doesn't get in the way too much. What is going to happen here is he's going to have some incredible straight line speed, which I don't think he's going to realise will be quite higher than the people behind him, so they won't catch. But then come 130,
he hit the brakes.
He hit the brakes and almost.
That's
a code brown there for Adam Cronin, who's lost a place to Max Lister, and that's Adam Cronin. Is he pulling off the circuit? No, he's continuing racing.
Pucker factor 10. Is that what we're saying here?
Yep, that was very, very scary there for Adam Cronin.
Code brown.
Code brown. As we have a look now through the rest of the field, Philip Kraus the gap sits at 2 seconds as Dionysius Farios comes into the pit lane and is passed by Sam Carpenter. Will Scott Davison come out though in relation to Carpenter? He's going to come out behind. So Sam Carpenter sits in 13th place at the moment, about 15 seconds off Daniel Sontag. So Sam here having a horrendous race it seems so far. Hasn't really got any pace or any sign of getting a podium or even some points at this stage in the Grand Prix, with only one runner that we've lost in the form of Wesley Morris. At the moment, the battles are happening between Adam Crone, who sits in 11th, and Brandon O'Hanlon in 10th, the final point available in this race. As Max Lister goes purple in the first sector with a 34.4. That's about 0.4 of a second faster than the leaders at the moment. So Max Lister looking fairly good at this stage of the Grand Prix. As Max Lister goes purple with the fastest lap of the race so far in this Grand Prix with a 1 minute 32.5. And that is a second faster than Tina Nelkeroinen on the last lap.
I mean, if you want to get on a team, that's how you do it right there. Max Lister in a test driver livery right now. Looking mighty fine in that blue. But
indeed.
You know, he's actually a very smooth driver. He's not putting a ton of input on the wheel when needed. Seems to be fairly smooth on the gas and on the brakes, and actually looking pretty strong here against Nick Bracke, who's on mediums, and that's a big lockup too. Oof.
He's actually gone purple again in the first sector, has Max Lister. But I'm having a look at the moment. The battle that we should probably be focusing on is Lister versus Bracke, 9th versus 8th in this Grand Prix. Nick Bracke seemingly struggling. The pole man doesn't look as good as he was in qualifying trim. As we're going to have a bit of slipstream here for Max Lister. Is he going to be brave enough to go for a move down the inside into 130R? No, he thinks better of it and he lets Bracke go through. He knows that there's plenty of opportunities to overtake later on in the race, as Kenyon and Philip Kraus, I believe, are into the pit lane for their first stops of the race. They do, and they emerge in the exact same position they were as before. Nelgarine onto a set of mediums, Kraus though onto a set of softs, so a bit of a difference there in strategy. Max Shepard into the pit lane, set of mediums for himself as well, as Max Lister still hunting Nick Bracke.
Lalu, Chadwick, and Belletti have not pitted, according to my sheets here.
No, they have not.
Yeah, so Tino sitting in 4th right now, still definitely challenging for the lead, and got 10 seconds, behind the leader, so that's plenty of time. All he needs to do is just keep doing what he's doing, and he's not under any real pressure from Kraus either, so should be feeling pretty confident here, although the mediums might be a bit foreign to him. Of course, knowing him, he probably ran about 400 laps on the medium. Unfortunately, that's not like I'm not exaggerating. That's what some of these drivers do. It's
dedication.
Dedication and just making sure the car is right and make sure you know what the tires are going to do in certain situations. The only way to do that is to run them.
And run them a lot is what Chukwuemeka Lalu did. But we're going to look here at Nick Bracke versus Max Lister into the Casio triangle. Lister's indicating he wants to go around the outside into the first part of the chicane. Bracke, though, covers off any potential manoeuvre there, as Fabricio Belletti comes into the pit lane. And will be passed by these two at battling at the moment, but here comes Lister. He's going to try and go down on the inside, and the move is made pretty easily before we even get to the braking zone of turn number 1. And that's now Lister up into 6th place with Dano Branto, the next driver up the road for him. So have a look at some of the other battles going on around the track. Fabricio Belletti's come out in 11th place, just behind Daniel Sontag, so these two are battling at the moment. Belletti comes out on a set of medium compound tyres.
Cronin and O'Henlin are pretty close to each other.
So look at Adam Cronin. These two been pretty much nose to tail for the past few laps. Be interesting to see what these two can do, as we have a look towards the front of the field to see what's going on here. We've got Chukwuemeka Lalu leading by 1.2 seconds over Kieran Chadwick. We'll see if these two come in, as Chukwuemeka Lalu does come into the pit lane and is followed by Kieran Chadwick, which means that Tino Nelgarine is going to retake the lead of this Japanese Grand Prix. Philip Kraus is starting to hunt him down. Philip's gone purple in the first 2 sectors and sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. Lalu versus Chadwick, though, it's fairly close between the two of them. I think Chadwick may have gained a bit of time there, but here comes Max Lister. He's going to come out in front of them both. Where's Nick Bracke, though, going to come out in terms of Lalu? It's very, very close, nose to tail between Lalu and Bracke. Bracke with a big slide there on exit of turn number 2. Was very, very lucky there not to spin round. Daniel Sontag, though, starting to put the blowtorch on Fabricio Belletti. So head through turn number 2 now, up into the S's complex. Kieran Chadwick, though, also very, very close indeed to Nick Bracke. as they head through Degner's 1 and into Degner number 2.
You know, a lot of people kind of miscalculate Degner's a little bit. You do have to get on the brakes. The fast guys can really work the weight transfer. You almost take it like a rally car. You just come flying in there, slam the brakes, and point the car wherever you want it to go. And if you don't have the car set up correctly, you kind of just skid off the track. But if you do it right and you can do it consistently, you can actually gain a ton of time right there, especially that first part of the Degners.
Scott Davison is out of this Japanese Grand Prix, has retired only a couple of laps ago, so unfortunately we're down to 14 runners left in this race, and the battle at the moment is between 5th, 6th, 7th on the road. It's Lalu versus Brackie versus Chadwick. Oh, Nick here, the only driver yet to score a podium out of the 3, as Nick is got DRS on Lalu, which doesn't allow Chadwick to close up with DRS. But a good exit there from Kieran Chadwick allows him to close up on Nick Brackie as they head into the S's section yet again. The gap at the front of the field, though, is incredibly close. It sits at 0.6 of a second, so these soft compound tyres has worked a treat for Philip Kraus to hunt down Tiernan Alcaran, who sits on a set of Williams white medium tyres, making their way now down towards Spoon Curve. We'll see how that battle begins to bubble. We'll go back to Kieran Chadwick against Nick Brackie as it's nose to tail between the two of them. We'll see, will there be a potential move into Spoon Curve? Looking like he's wanting to indicate a move. We'll go to the battle at the front because they're heading into the Casio Triangle. Will Philip Kraus be close enough to make a move on Tiernan Alcaran for the lead of this Grand Prix? It's not going to happen this time round, but maybe with some DRS and some slipstream onto the main straight. It's not going to happen, I don't think. Lalu versus Lister through the Casio Triangle. It's very, very close as battles happening everywhere, but at the moment we should have a look at Nick Brackie versus Kieran Chadwick, as in sync we can see in front of them Tuka Lalu goes down on the inside of Max Lister, and that is a synchronised overtaking. And Nick Brackie, though, has set sail and he's off the circuit, but he's back on. Well. He's okay.
He just got into the AstroTurf there on the outside of turns 1 and 2, and back end stepped out on him. He does not have the grip he is looking for with those mediums. Took a bit of a gamble, it seems. Not paying off for him.
No, it is not. Sam Carpenter, though, the gamble that has not paid off in the slightest, as he sits at the moment 46 seconds off the lead in 12th place. And a bit of no man's land, 10 seconds behind Brandon O'Hanlon, and about 5 seconds ahead of Max Shepard. As big slide there from Philip Kraus. Amazing car control there to save what was a definite spin. He's lost a little bit of time in comparison to Alcaran, but definitely saved himself a huge amount of worry. Kieran Chadwick, though, hunting down Max Lister for 5th place in this Japanese Grand Prix. O'Hanlon on Sontag is also starting to brew away, but we'll go back and have a look at Chadwick versus Lister. I don't think a move into 130R will be on the cards, but maybe into the Casio Triangle, the late braking manoeuvre on those medium compound tyres. Will Lister leave the door open? Not this time round. But a fairly good exit there from Chadwick could allow for a move to be made. And here we go. Kieran Chadwick's going to try and go round the outside into turn number 1. Lister's not going to fight him, and that is Kieran Chadwick up into 5th place of this Japanese Grand Prix. And the next car up is just in front of him. It's Jukka-Pekka Lalu for Vissel Sim Racing, sitting in 4th. So we have a look now. Philip Kraus is fairly close to Tino Nelkarainen. He's closed up the gap on the Finnish driver as they head now down towards Spoon Curve. There wouldn't be a move on the cards at this stage of the circuit, but maybe into the Casio Triangle or even a fantastic exit could allow for a move to be made before 130R. The American driver is closing up on the Williams. Will he be close enough to make a move into the Casio triangle? He's gaining. No, not this time round. But maybe with a fantastic exit from the final corner, he might be able to use some DRS and slipstream to make a move. Nelkarainen goes to the inside of the circuit. Kraus follows him. He's hunting for that slipstream. He's got it. Here we go. Here goes Philip Kraus. He's going to try and go around the outside into turn number 1. Nelkarainen's going to make him work for his money, and unfortunately, Kraus has gone way off the circuit. I think he got hooked on the curb there, which has pushed him out wide. I don't think there was contact between the two, but Kraus has lost a little bit of time. We shall see if Kraus can close back up and have another go for the lead. It's Brandon O'Hanlon versus Daniel Sontag, 11th versus 10th. Is starting to brew into turn number 1, and there goes Sontag off the circuit. And that is an engine blow. That's an engine failure, I believe. Oh no, he's okay. Oh. In the mirrors of O'Hanlon now, I thought I saw flames coming out the back of Sontag's car, but he seems to be okay. He's continuing on in this Japanese Grand Prix. He's okay. Sam Carpenter on a set of soft tyres now, so has pitted for the second time in this Grand Prix. He's behind Max Shepard, so Sam at the moment will be hunting down Max for 12th place in this Grand Prix.
And he's the first to change out of the mediums too, if I'm correct.
He is. I think he's just trying anything at this point. The race isn't working out as he would have planned, I don't think. No. So he's just going to try and do anything to get some points. He's got to hope for some retirements in front and some luck to go his way, but at the moment he's in a bit of a rut and he's got to try and get out of it. He's 15 seconds behind Max Shepard, and there's no sign of him gaining that in the course of the next 16 laps of this Grand Prix.
I mean, he potentially could, with the way pit stops might shake out and everything else. He could get into the points. It's just a matter of staying consistent and try not to fry the tires. The better question is, can he make it to the end?
Fabrizio Belletti, has gone down on the inside of Adam Cronin into turn number 1, up into 7th place in this Grand Prix. Nick Bracchi is looming as he heads into turn number 1. Cronin versus Belletti, the battle through the SS section of the lap, up toward the Dunlop curve.
Cronin just got a little bit wide on the exit of the S's. He had to correct a little bit too much, and that slowed him down quite a bit to the exit and into Dunlop.
Yeah, it really did cost him there. He's losing time now to Belletti, so Belletti's going to start to disappear off into the distance. Kraus, though, is starting to close up, and he's actually gone over the rumple strips. And Philip Kraus has rolled! Philip Kraus is upside down multiple times. He's gone over the anti-cuts. Will they be able to get the car over? Let's see. He's just managed to roll it over the right way, and he's really, really disoriented at this point. He's losing places to both Chadwick, Lalu, and Branthome. And that's probably one of the most unusual crashes I have ever seen. Ever.
If he finishes in the top 5, that's going to be wild. How? I mean, simulation racing and all, but you'd think that would put him out of the race.
I know it was a very, very slow collision. He just went over the anti-cuts to the point where it did roll the car quite a few times, and then had enough momentum to get the car back over onto all 4 wheels and kept it going. He's sits in 5th at the moment, and he'll be hunting down the drivers in front after going for the lead is now upside down and going for positions in front. But Max Shepard up into 11th place in this Grand Prix, moved up ahead of Adam Cronin as well. So Max Shepard's now up to 10th, my apologies. So Shepard looking fairly good on these medium compound tyres, something that Carpenter hasn't been able to do. Sam Carpenter, though, is starting to close up on Brandon O'Hanlon, who has just come out of the pit lane. So Carpenter on raw pace is behind O'Hanlon, so a bit of worry there for Sam Carpenter. Cronin, though, hunting down Max Shepard. A fresh set of soft compound tyres has helped him close down on the Vulcan. And he's closed up massively there through turn number 11 into the hairpin. As they head through turn number 12 now, down towards Spoon Curve. Not close enough for Cronin to make a move, but potentially a good line could allow him to close up into 130R. Got to be careful not to spin up the rears. That's something that Cronin has done once or twice so far in this Grand Prix. Be very, very careful indeed. Slipstreaming is definitely helping Cronin close up on Shepherd. What about a move into the Casio triangle? Not brave enough this time round. Maybe a move with some DRS and some slipstream into the apex of turn number 1 could be a move that Cronin could be sizing up. The moment Sontag comes to the pit lane, promotes both Shepherd and Cronin up a position, but here comes Cronin. He wants another position. He's going to go wide. He went really, really wide there through turn number 1. Will Shepherd get that position back? He will indeed. He'll say, thank you very much. I'll take that, what was mine. And back up into 9th place in this Grand Prix goes Max Shepherd.
And Cronin got all over the curb of the inside of turn 1, and with the banking there, that is absolutely dangerous. That could have sent that car careening into the wall. I don't think we really want to see tires flying.
No, we almost had a fantastic opportunity to see them fly, unfortunately, but Cronin keeps the car on the black stuff and is just behind Max Shepherd. Hasn't lost too much time behind battling. As Suzuka Pekalalu, I believe, is coming in the pit lane as well. Oh no, my apologies. He's without front wing. So Suzuka Pekalalu has crashed and has lost his front wing. The man sitting in 3rd place in this Grand Prix is unfortunately now down to 7th, and he's without a front wing, and he's having to make his way back to the pit lane. That promotes Philip Krass up to 4th place in this race. Chabek now up to 3rd. But we shall see what happens. As Lalu comes to the pit lane, Bracky gains advantage. Cronin on Shepherd is very, very close as they head into the Casio triangle. Cronin's got to be very careful not to extend over and cut the circuit. As now we can see Cronin closing up on Shepherd. Will a move be made into turn number 1? It would be a bit bold to do that. Don't think the move was on. As Cronin now just sitting pretty behind Max Shepherd, just waiting for his chance to make a move. As Suzuka Pekalalu comes out behind Sam Carpenter, but on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. So he'll be hunting Sam Carpenter down, trying to get back 11th in this race. And just ahead of him is Brandon O'Hanlon. So points are still on offer, you would imagine, for Lalu. Carpenter, though, seems to be struggling.
This is, speaking of Carpenter, his positioning right now is absolutely huge for Chadwick and the KRT guys, as Carpenter would not score any points unless he can catch O'Hanlon. And in the Constructors' Championship, that's something that KRT want to see, to try to set something up for the last race over in Interlagos.
And speaking of which, speaking of the KRT, he's just gone down on the inside into turn number 1. He's now up into 2nd place ahead of Dano Brantham. So that's a fantastic move there from Kieran to put himself up into 2nd place, and he's now 17 seconds behind Tina Nelkarainen. So we shall see if Philip Kraus can get back onto the podium by passing Brantham. But Cronin versus Shepherd is getting very, very spicy indeed as they head onto the main straight. DRS and slipstream yet again for Cronin, but will he be getting slightly frustrated by the lack of the ability to make a move? He's going to try and go around the outside into turn number 1. It's going to become the inside for turn number 2. Contact between the two of them, though. They're going to go be side by side now as they head into the S's section. Max Shepherd's not giving up any position. They make contact and they're both off. And that's an accident for Max Shepherd and Adam Cronin. Cronin's the wall, steering damage for sure. He's continuing on. Max Shepherd disappears, scampers up the road, and there's a massive amount of damage there for Adam Cronin.
That was...
You'd imagine that that'll be game over for Adam Cronin. That amount of steering damage. You'd be insane to try and go to the finish. It's more like an Indy car than a Formula 1 car at the moment. But he seems to be going okay. We shall see. O'Hanlon gets past. Carpenter will be not too far behind as well. So, depending on how much time Cronin loses here, Sam Carpenter could be up into the points. There's Dano Brantham is in the pit lane, I believe. Yep, he's come into the pits, which promotes Philip Kraus up to third.
Keeping an eye on Cronin right now. It looks pretty stable, actually.
That surprises me big time.
Yeah, me too. I was expecting some real damage on that car, but he's gonna have to be careful. Obviously, I'm sure he's seeing a couple of warning lights in the heads-up display, although not on the wheel, of course. It's be in rFactor to let him know that there is some damage. But he'll definitely have to be careful from here on out, as we have just about 10 laps to go.
Speaking of warning lights, sorry, Sam Carpenter and Chuka Pekalalu going side by side through turn number 2. Carpenter is getting absolutely hounded here by the Finnish driver. The Vissel Sim Racing car looks like it's got the pace over the Sabre at the moment as we stand in the dying stages of this Japanese Grand Prix, looking for points if Cronin can keep on the road. In lap 28 of 37, this Japanese Grand Prix. Now Cronin leads ahead of Chadwick, Kraus, Belletti, Bracchi, Brantham, Bracchi. Lister sits in 7th. Shepard, after that massive collision with Cronin, is in 8th. So we can see now, Chuka Pekalalu hunting down Sam Carpenter as Philip Kraus is in the pit lane. There you go. So he's had to blink because he saw what happened with Brantham. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he'll come out in relation to Danove. He most likely will come out behind both Brantham and Bracchi as well. So we can see now Lalu versus Carpenter heading through 130R into the Casio triangle. Lalu's going to be forced. Is he going to have to try and go around the outside? Carpenter goes slightly deep through the first section, which compromises his run through the second part. Onto the main, through the final corner, onto the main straight. It looks as though the Carpenter's not going to be able to do anything. Here comes Lalu. He's going to try and go down on the inside into turn number 1. It's going to be a fairly straightforward manoeuvre for Chukwuemeka Lalu and up into 11th place in this Grand Prix. 3 seconds up the road for him, though. It's Adam Cronin for a valuable point.
I think the tires are starting to go away from Carpenter.
They are. I think this entire race is starting to go away from Carpenter. It has not worked in the slightest for Sam Carpenter. It's been a really struggle of a race for him. It just hasn't worked. Pretty much everything that he's tried has not worked. So you have to reset and go again at the final race of the season. But maybe a break is going to be welcomed by Sam in the next couple of weeks.
I would have to think so. Honestly, Sam has had some fairly big struggles in the waning races of this season, and you know, it's been a little bit of a tough one. He's done well. He's shown a lot of promise for sure. He's just not really his year.
Fabricio Belletti sits in 3rd place at the moment for Ita Racing, but both him, Chadwick and Nel Cronin are yet to pit for the second time in this Grand Prix. Philip Kraus sets the purple 2nd and 3rd sector after pitting on the previous lap. So he is looking very racy indeed. Going towards the line. Max Shepard, I believe, is into the pit lane as well. So, yep, Mac is coming into the pits. Obviously, after that massive contact with Cronin, he's going to come out behind Carpenter on a set of super soft tyres. Will come out, I believe, in 13th place. Nick Bracchi versus Dano Brantham. Bracchi looking to attack Brantham for 4th place in this Grand Prix. Obviously, just behind Bracchi, though, it's his teammate in the form, Philip Kraus, who's looking very racy on those super soft compound tyres. Will Bracchi let him through, or will he have to attack Brantham and slow Brantham down and allow his teammate to pass him as well? It'll be a game of cat and mouse, a strategical game, and we love it.
Bracchi would be smart to let Kraus on by and let Brantham be hassled by Kraus.
Oh, well, I think Brantham's going to stay ahead if he keeps continuing with those lines. He pretty much went to space there, but we shall see what happens here between the two Zesty cars. Unfortunately, I'm not able to give team orders, or else I would.
Would you really, though? I don't think you would.
I would certainly would be at this stage. It's time to let Kraus through. He's on the faster compound tyre. I won't be using multi 21 because the driver's numbers are too long.
Well, unless you know, Kraus needs to save some fuel.
It's a possibility. It is a possibility. Seb Carpenter sitting in 12th place at the moment. I was about to say he's starting to attack, but he's into the pit lane yet again.
Yeah, tires just gone.
His 4th stop of the... no, sorry, my apologies. His 3rd stop of the afternoon.
Oh, we got to pass. Pass. Philip Kraus nearly had it.
I'm not liking this. This is doing my heart no good at all. Just let him through.
No, he's got it. He's got it.
He's through. Oh, there we go. Philip Kraus up into 4th place in this Japanese Grand Prix, lap 31 of 37. Tino Alcaraz leads the field. The Williams driver looking for his 2nd win in a row. Next up, though, for Philip Kraus, it's 3rd place man Dan of Branthome as Fabrizio Belletti comes into the pit lane. He sits in 7th place at the moment, hunting down Max Lister. Yes, it's all settled down.
As we watch Bracky, he's going to fall off the pace here because of the slower tires, unfortunately for him. But Kraus is starting to catch up to Danov and using the DRS to his full advantage and absolutely slicing through these corners. Danov has been on these tires for, I think, 2 more laps than Kraus has, so Kraus will have a bit of an advantage there. And they do, I believe they're going to have to make these tires last until the end of the race. They don't last very long, especially at a track like Suzuka. That does put a lot of heat in, although it is a fairly even track with the way the heat distribution works in the tires. You set your car up fairly neutral, especially for those S's, and it really just comes down to your throttle control and your brake control.
Be interesting to see if the top 2 drivers, Tino Alcaraz and Kieran Chadwick, do come into the pit lane because it's only a few laps to go in this race, but they have been on those tyres for a very, very long time. So can Kieran Chadwick get his first podium in, I'm going to say, a very, very, very long time?
It's been a while.
Dinius Farios is off into the wall there. He's been lapped for a 2nd time. Adam Cronin has spun. Dinius Farios is out of the race. Sam Carpenter is currently the last of the current runners. Philip Kraus, though, putting the pressure on Dan of Branthome. His old teammate is getting the blow torch applied through the Casio triangle. Nose to tail through the final corner. Got to be careful of the dirty air. Kraus, though, seems to have got it mastered in the slipstream. He will have DRS. He's going to go to the inside, and the move is going to be made before they even get to turn their wheel for turn number 1. That's Kraus up into 3rd place after being momentarily upside down only a few laps ago.
I still can't believe that. He's upside down, and he recovers enough to get into 3rd place, and it'll be a big ask for 2nd, but a big podium here.
He needs Kieran Chadwick to pit if he wants to try and get 2nd. He sits 36 seconds off the lead, and sits a few seconds off Kieran Chadwick, about 17 seconds, but he goes purple in the 1st sector. He's taken almost 2 seconds out of the top 2 drivers on the 1st sector alone. So here comes Philip Kraus. We're on lap 32. We're on lap 32. Sorry, we've just started lap 33, so
yeah,
it's a big ask for Philip Kraus to try and gain this, but if something was to go wrong on the final lap for one of them... Oh! Speaking of going wrong, Philip Kraus almost had a massive issue off into the wall, but he seems to be okay. He's hunting, though. The top 2 drivers in this race, the gap sits at 13 seconds between...
So, Carpenter has set a 1:29.9.
Yes, I believe he's just going for fastest lap now, sitting at the back of the field. At this point,
yes, but Kraus has actually beat the 1st sector time of that lap by something like a good half a second. Kraus is on the hunt too, so is there enough time? I don't know.
It'll be a big ask.
I really don't know.
It'll be a massive ask. He's on lap 33 of 37, and the gap at the moment sits at it's at about 18 or so seconds between 2nd and 3rd. So he does need Kieran Chadwick to pit, I believe, for him to get 2nd place in this Grand Prix. If he wants to close up on Kieran Chadwick, he's going to have to score more points than the British driver. Jukapekalalu. Jukapekalalu is closing up on Brandon O'Hanlon. These two battling for 9th and 8th in the Grand Prix. As Adam Cronin is also out of this Grand Prix, so we've got 12 runners left. Sam Carpenter a few seconds off the lead, off Daniel Sontag sitting in 11th place.
Carpenter is still the fastest driver on the track other than Philip Kraus as of the last lap.
Yes, yep. So he's pushing, but unfortunately I don't think it's going to get him anywhere because he's too far behind anyone for it to matter. I say that, he's just catched up quite a bit to Daniel Sontag. Carpenter versus Sontag, the exit of the hairpin heading up towards Spoon Curve. These two aren't battling for points, but they're battling for pride. Will Sam be able to make a move potentially into Spoon Curve? Sontag on a set of medium tyres that seem to have gone on for an eternity. Carpenter though closing massively here on Sontag. Is going to pull to the inside. Will Sontag bother to? Will he bother to battle him? Will he back out before they even reach 130R? He does so, and that's Carpenter now up into 11th place, and he sits 11 seconds off the points.
And he's going to have to be very careful from here on out. I mean, Max Shepard has looked pretty strong, and he's running alone. So Mac has the same tires that Sam Carpenter has on right now. It's just a matter of Mac keeping it clean and making sure he doesn't make any large mistakes here in the waning laps of the Japanese Grand Prix. And he'll have a solid top 10. That's a very good performance here from Mac Shepard.
As we start lap 35 of 37, Tino Nolkarainen leads Kieran Chabik by 19 seconds. Philip Kraus has closed the gap by 2 seconds over the course of the last couple of laps, but it seems to be done in vain, as it seems that the top three may be locked in place. Nick Brackie, though, is starting to attack Dano Brantham.
About time.
Brantham on a set of super soft tyres, Brackie on a set of mediums.
He's got the DRS too.
We'll see if Brackie will be close enough to make a move on Brantham. What happened this lap, I wouldn't imagine, as they head into turn number 1. But what about the battle between Lalu and O'Hanlon? 8th and 9th into the Casio Triangle. This is much closer than what we've seen previously between the two of them. Through the second part, now in through the third. Through the final corner, onto the main straight to start lap 35 of their Grand Prix. DRS slipstream for Lalu. Here goes Lalu up into 8th place, down on the inside, and that's a straightforward manoeuvre for him. O'Hanlon down to 9th, and 4 seconds back it's Max Shepard, so we'll see if Mac can start to attack, but I doubt that.
I also doubt it. I mean, O'Hanlon would have to make some pretty serious errors or be very slow, and he is not. O'Hanlon has kept a pretty decent pace all the way throughout the race. It's just a matter of, don't make the mistakes, and hopefully the tires hold.
Exactly. As Tino Nolkarainen starts the penultimate lap of this Grand Prix, Nick Brackie has gotten closer to Dano Brantham for hunting for 4th place in this Grand Prix. Will he be close enough to make a move before the end of this Grand Prix?
He might do it. Ooh, big cut.
Big cut there from both drivers. Brackie there a bit eager on the throttle, almost spun it round, but onto the main straight to start lap 36. He's got 2 more laps to make the move. He's closing up with DRS and with slipstream. Will he make a move into turn number 1? It's the closest he's ever been to Brantham in this battle. Got to be very careful not to make a mistake, as Max Lister is out of the Grand Prix.
Oh,
Max Lister,
no, he ran out of gas.
He's out of fuel.
Oh,
he's run out of fuel.
That is unfortunate.
He has run out of fuel, so Max Lister too eager on the gas, and he's out. And that promotes Sam Carpenter up into the points to get a singular point. He wouldn't have expected that to be happening. As the battle...
Take what you can get, man.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
The battle between Brantham and Brackie resumes. As Tino Nolkarainen starts the final lap of the Grand Prix.
and he's just been so clean, rocking the mediums. Obviously, the Williams Esports narrative, if you will, has been for Tino to improve immensely, and he has. Ever since he took up the mantle, he's obviously been talking to the guys over at Williams. He's learning a whole lot because his driving has changed fairly dramatically. It's been refreshing to see him improve in the way that he has. He's just become so smooth, and it's almost like silk. The way he applies the throttle in these cars has become surgical, if you will. Whereas before, at the start of the season, he's usually a little bit too eager, and strategy calls, everything that he's been doing lately has been on point. It's obvious that the improvement from Tino has been dramatic as he makes his way through 130R the last time.
It's been sensational from Tino Nokarainen. Aggressive at the start, and he needed to be to get himself in the position to come around the final corner now to win the Japanese Grand Prix, his second win of the season, and a fantastic result for him. It's a great race. Checkered flag falls, and he is a Grand Prix winner for the second time this season. Winner in Singapore, and now a winner in Japan. But it's going to be Kieran Chadwick who's going to come through the final corner now to claim second place, his first podium in a very, very long time indeed. And he'll be happy with that result in terms of the Constructors' battle. Further behind, it's going to be Philip Kraus, a man who was upside down a few laps ago. He's going to come through to finish in third, and a great result for Zesty Racing, because just behind him it's going to be his teammate who's going to lead Dano Brantham through, and
wow.
Nick Brackey's going to come through for another fourth place.
That's a big one.
Finishes in fifth. Fabricio Belletti is without a front wing and is making his way through the Casio Triangle. Going to come through to take the checkered flag to finish in sixth without a front wing, but sixth nonetheless. A little bit behind, it's Druka Pekalalu who's going to lead Brandon O'Hanlon through, who's going to lead Max Shepard through for 7th, 8th and 9th, and then further behind them it's going to be Sam Carpenter, who's going to eventually make his way through the final corner to claim 10th place, 1 point for his troubles. And that's a difficult race for Sam, but I think he'll be happy with a singular point. And eventually, here comes Daniel Sontag to finish in 11th place and last of the finishing cars. So we're going to take a short break now, and we'll be back in a few moments with the top 3 interviews. Rightio, we're back here for the top 3 interviews. Well, we say the top 3. We're going to talk to our race winner, Tino Nalkarainen, as Kieran Chadwick and Philip Krause have disappeared off after the race, but we're going to see if Tino's around. Tino, are you here?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Well, Tino, a great race and a second win in a row, a second win of the season. How'd you feel cutting through the field in the early stages to take the lead of the Grand Prix?
Well, yeah, I kind of wanted to get that lead because I kind of deserved that after my pole position with harder tires, but yeah, it wasn't like the really hard like stuff to overtake people and to get the P1, and obviously it helped him and Nick actually spun in the end of spoon, so that actually helped me to jump.
Yeah, we saw that you dropped down the order quite quickly, sort of in the early stages. How'd you feel managing? I think you were on all 3 compounds of tires throughout the race. How'd you feel managing the tires, especially the mediums towards the end, where both you and Kieran were struggling with medium degradation towards the end?
Well, the mediums were actually like really good race tires. I actually did like my whole medium stint inside like 3/10, like every like 25 laps, something like that. So that was really good, consistent. And yeah, let's just say on my last lap, well, I didn't actually push on any lap in this race, apart from last lap where I went 6/10 faster than my previous best lap. So yeah, the mediums were really good tires. And to be fair, like, because Phil pitted for softs in like middle stint. From that on, I kind of knew that I can go in the end with mediums, so I was like thinking like I can win this race now. And obviously when I saw Phil's crash, that kind of like settled everything, and I started like just being focusing for like not making a mistake and just keeping the tires fresh and not like good condition. And it was pretty like easy on that end. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations on another win. We moved to Brazil for the final round of the season. How do you feel heading towards the Interlagos circuit?
Well, if it's on next week, I'm not too sure can I do it because I'm on Williams factory, so...
to the job. Nice. Well, I think it is next week. I'm not 100% sure, but...
Double check.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it was, if you are there, well, we hope to see you racing. Go for 3 in a row. A feat only done by Craig, I think, is the only other driver to do that this season. But yeah, so we may see you at Interlagos, we may not, but congratulations on another victory at the Japanese Grand Prix. We shall talk to you soon.
Yep, thanks.
Well, there we go, Tino Nalkarainen, the race winner from the Japanese Grand Prix. We now turn our attention to the Brazilian Grand Prix, which, Curtis, is in how many weeks?
I'm trying to get there. Unfortunately, I clicked the wrong thing and everything freaked out. So,
okay.
Don't mind me, just doing the thing, you know. Here we are. Okay, new calendar. All right, that is now loading up. I can tell you this though, Interlagos is one of my favorite tracks. It is next week. I love running there. I've ran a ton of races there. And it's one of those tracks you have to have a good balance. There's a very, very fast front stretch, and then right down you got a lot of downhill undulation. It's very much a roller coaster if you get the setup right. And in the rain, it is brilliant. I don't think we're going to see any rain, but
no, I'm doubtful.
Man, getting turn 1 through 4 right is so satisfying because you completely stretch the limits of your skill. You stretch the limits of the car and its setup, and it's just one of those driver's tracks that just can make or break you as a person.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the drivers can do, but that is for next week. My name's been Zach Jones. Alongside me has been Curtis Kenyon. Thank you for joining me. We've got one more race to do this season, the Brazilian Grand Prix, next weekend, round number 16 of the season. Thank you for watching. We'll see you then. Goodbye.